Want to learn how to sew a perfectly matched intersection? You might be surprised to learn that pressing plays a major role in getting these seams to line up. In this video, you'll get some tips on matching this intersection while making a 4-patch block. Ready to begin? You can download these 3 patterns at learnhowtoquilt.com under the Saturday Sampler quilt. Press your fabric before you begin. You can cut 1 block out at a time or all 4 at once. If layering your fabric, make sure to match up those grain lines. If you're not sure about those grain lines, the easiest way to find them is turn your fabric over and look for the threads. Cut out 4 3.5-inch squares. Lay out your blocks and put right sides together. Keep track of the sides to be sewn when stacking these sets. You can use a pin or a clip, but I just hold this side in my hand and I always place it next to my foot. When you have multiple sets to sew, use chain piecing to save time. Start sewing on a leader, line up all your edges, butt that piece up next to the last piece, and sew. Take your next set, butt it up to the first one, and sew. Don't try to push it or pull, just sew. Let the feed dogs do all the work for you. If this appears difficult, try taking some scraps of fabric and using those to sew on till you get used to that motion of butting one piece up against the next one. And then when you're ready, you can take your set, line it up, make sure you're sewing that 1/4-inch seam, and sew. Finish up with a follower. When pressing, you'll want to first register your seams by pressing down to get those threads to nestle inside that fabric. This pattern has arrows for pressing guidance, but on some patterns you'll have to figure that out on your own. You want to plan so your seams go in opposite directions. So I've got this open, and this seam will go in this direction. If I press this way, this seam will go in that direction. When your fabric's been pressed, put right sides together. Make sure all sides line up, not just the side to be sewn. Pin the ends to keep everything in place. Pull back this set and you'll see what I call the pressing hump. I actually like to call this a hill where it's up and this a valley. I have a hill and a valley over here. You want the hills to nestle up against each other. You can feel when they're hitting against each other, and then pin. I'm going to put 2 pins in just to be safe. Now some folks prefer gluing that intersection. So you open up the intersection. You want to make sure you're using a washable glue stick. Put a little glue on each side and nestle those seams together. You might want to hold it in place till it sets. You can also use a pin here to ensure that it stays glued, but it's not necessary. Butt your fabric up to the leader and begin sewing. Make sure to remove your pins as you sew. You can use a stiletto or other sharp object to help hold this intersection in place when you remove the pin. Notice how I can get almost right up there next to that needle. Remove the next pin when I'm sewing. Here's my glued intersection. Finish up with the follower. And here's my intersections. To press, you want to register the seam, and then you can Just press this back like so. But sometimes you might get a big hump from all this bulk that might interfere with your quilting later on. So another way to press this seam is to first take out these threads. You don't want to go any further than this seam. Then open up your block. Then you can press those seams in opposite directions. You'll get this cute little 4-patch in the center, and that will alleviate some of the bulk at that intersection. Now that you know how to make one 4-patch block, you might be interested in making multiple blocks using strip piecing. Check out our 4-patch video at LearnHowToQuilt.com's encyclopedia under the entry 4-patch. Hope you find success in matching that intersection. I also hope your quilting skills and stash of sampler blocks are on the rise. In the next video in this series, you'll get a chance to practice your matching skills when constructing this 9-patch block. If you absolutely dislike matching, try looking for patterns with no matching. Like this quilt, the thread heads donated to the Quilt of Valor program. Or try free-form quilting, where matching is not a big issue. Thank you for visiting LearnHowToQuilt.com. Please share our series with your friends.